Hey guys, in this video I will provide you with an update on the newest version of Sproket available, version 4.17. This is available now from the 11th of April 2023. This update includes 16 enhancements with 15 bug fixes. Let's jump in. Highlights are the ones in blue there, and I'll take you through some of these in a bit of a demo today. Obviously, a bit of focus on the app launcher, as well as People Hub, and some other general updates was the overall focus of this particular update. Let's jump in and take a look at some of these. So the first one we're going to look at is the app launcher. So now what you can do is so we have our app launcher running here. We can drag and drop these to reorder these apps in any fashion we like. And we can add in more apps into this list as well. Now the other big change is that these apps that the individual user has put into their app launcher, the settings of where they are stored has moved. Previously, it was stored in a list which everybody needed permissions to, which was a list called Sproket Settings. And we would store these values here as a JSON blob. This is now moved, and each individual user now stores their own settings in their personal OneDrive, which will live under Apps, SharePoint Online Client Extension, extensibility, configuration, and their particular each web part that has been configured and personalized to them is stored in here. This is much better from a security standpoint because each individual user has obviously contribute access to their own OneDrive. When the user eventually leaves the organization, their OneDrive will be decommissioned with it. Versus in this state, all ex-employees, this data will continue to stay in here and get quite cluttered. It's worth noting that when we do an upgrade, we're not deleting any values out of here, but we're also not persisting any new values in here either. Going forward, everything will be stored in the user's individual OneDrive. You'll also notice that from this version, the apps themselves, little tiles, are now more square and rounded edges to be more in line with standard SharePoint versus what was previously the round coin. While we're on the app launcher, if I modify this page, this web part can now be configured to specify filters. So you could now have one central document library of all of your different apps, and you might put metadata on that, and you might want to filter that metadata by a particular column. So we might have finance apps and HR apps, and then we want to show those apps in the different sites. But rather than duplicating those apps, we can store them centrally and then filter as required. Okay, let's change gears now. We're going to head over into the News Hub. And what we've done here is implement query string filtering. So if we wanted to filter by category and say, well, I can see some items as social, so I'm going to filter as social. And so what we've done is when you change those filters, it will add a query string to the top. And so what this means is that if we wanted to link to this page with the filter on it, we can now do so. And we can link straight into this filter, and we're loading up only the social articles themselves. This behavior works for all three fields. Another little handy update is to the My Read checklist web part. If we come in here, modify this web part, see a new toggle switch that says hide this web part if there's nothing to show. So we can turn that on. In this scenario, if there are no items where the user has basically read everything they need to, then this whole web part would be hidden from the user. Good news, now if you're using the Sproket header inside of the Microsoft Viva Connections tab inside of Microsoft Teams, you'll now see the website link where you can click on that to open that in standard SharePoint. Okay, shifting gears over to People Hub, and we can now use a SharePoint list as a data source. If we come in here and modify this web part, you'll see previously we had Graph, which is what most people will use, SharePoint Search using the SharePoint API, test data, but this new data source of a SharePoint list data. If we select this item, it will automatically provision a list for us. If I go over and go into site contents, we've got People Hub. You can see there's 51 items in there, and you can see I've got some sample data in here populated. These columns that are created here automatically provisioned. This is all standard columns, but you can go in and create your own, and then you can use the overrides, the JSON overrides of People Hub to bring in any custom columns that you wish. You'll see the picture URL is a people picker field, and the manager is a lookup to itself. Okay, so with this sample data in here, I can show you what this looks like. Let's republish the changes here, and we can see our data coming in here, and we can see the org browser coming in as well with the sample data, all powered from a SharePoint list, which is pretty cool. One other feature in here is the administrative role. And in this example, what I'll do is I'll say that this administrative role, that this user is an administrative person, manager is Caleb. So I've saved that. If I refresh our People Hub, we can see that Camilla is now indented and a different color reporting into Caleb. Okay, different color in this scenario as well. But the most notable difference is if we're using the org chart. So let's bring that in and republish. And with the org chart, we can zoom out to go and find Camilla. And you can see here that also highlighted in gray, but slightly higher up, just to sort of call out that she is an assistant or an administrative role to Caleb. Other little feature to call out in here, with larger tenants where they might have more than 5,000 users or even more than 2,000, we do see that the performance of People Hub can become quite slow. So with this latest update, we have introduced what we call lazy loading. With this enabled, what it will mean, what it does mean is that when the page loads, it goes and gets the items, but more items will come through as we scroll down. We only have 50 users in this scenario, but it will be loaded in batches of 200 to make it a lot more performant. And when we do a search, it's doing a server-side search query rather than loading all the users at once. And there you have it. They're the latest features of Sproket version 4.17. Thanks as always for your feedback. Keep it coming, and we'll continue to prioritize it and get new features out as soon as we can.